Today we're going to be on the topic of distance, speed and time, and today we're going to be looking at converting standard times, hours and minutes into decimal hours, and also we're going to look at calculating distance. So let's first think about calculating distance. So let's say a car is travelling 40 kilometres an hour. So if we look at the first column of our table here, so we've got speed, speed, time and distance. So we know the speed, they are travelling 40 kilometres per hour. Let's say they're just travelling for 1 hour. So the key is in the speed units here, kilometres per hour. So that means every hour they're going to travel 40 kilometres. So let's say the same speed is continuing, 40 kilometres per hour. They're now travelling for 2 hours. So if they travel 40 kilometres in 1 hour, how many will they travel in 2 hours? Well, you're just going to double it to get 80 kilometres. And keep going forward, 40 kilometres per hour, travelling for 3 hours, 120 kilometres. Now moving quite a few steps forward, let's say we're still travelling at 40 kilometres per hour, but we're now going to be travelling for 10 hours. What do you think the distance might be, or how might you work it out? Well, the distance is 400 kilometres. And if we look at the link here, 40 kilometres for 1 hour is 40 kilometres, 40 kilometres for 2 hours, 40 times 2 gives you 80, 40 kilometres for 3 hours, 40 times 3 gives you 120, 40 kilometres for 10 hours, 40 times 10 is 400. So we say the distance is equal to the speed times time. So if we know both speed and time, we can always calculate the distance travelled. We're going to shorten that down to D equals S times T. And this is the formula that we're going to use to calculate distance. So let's look at an example. So let's say a car travels an average speed of 60 miles per hour for 3 hours. How far does it travel? So we're going to pick out the information from our question. So the speed equals 60 miles per hour, so S equals 60 miles per hour, and time equals 3 hours. So we've picked out our information from our question. So let's work out the distance travelled. So the first thing we're going to write down is our formula, D equals S times T. We're then going to substitute into the formula, which means swapping out our letters for our values that we now have. So speed is 60, time is 3. So we've just swapped them out, substituted them in to our formula, and now we can just go ahead and calculate it. So 60 times 3 is 180 miles. So notice we've had miles per hour, therefore our distance must be in miles, and you need to write that in your answer. So can you please make sure that you've got these examples copied down as we go through the video. Okay, second example. A plane travels 350 miles per hour for 2 hours. How far does it travel? First thing we're going to do is pick out the information from our question. So we've got speed is 350 miles per hour and the time is 2 hours. So let's try and work it out. So our formula, distance equals speed times time. So we're going to write that down first. Substitute in to get 350 times 2. And then we just go ahead and write down our answer. And remember miles per hour, so our distance is miles. The distance is not miles per hour because that is a speed. It's just miles. And when you are doing these questions, you should have 3 clear lines of working. Okay, so let's say the previous 2 examples have been quite nice, rounded hours, but in some cases it might not be so easy as that. So let's say we're calculating something within 30 minutes. And we're going to now learn how to convert time into decimal time, so like decimal hours. So if you have 30 minutes, if you think of that in terms of an hour, that is half an hour. So we're going to use that to help us change this into decimal time by writing 0.5. Okay, so half an hour as a decimal is 0.5. So this is 0.5 hours. 15 minutes is a quarter of an hour, and a quarter as a decimal is 0.25. Be very careful because a common mistake people make is they write 0.15 because it's 15 minutes. Okay, that is wrong. 15 minutes is a quarter of an hour, and a quarter as a decimal is 0.25, so be really careful with that. 45 minutes is 3/4 of an hour, so essentially we've got 3 15 minutes to get 0.75. Again, it's absolutely not 0.45, so be really careful to watch out for that mistake. So if we were to think about 1 hour and 15 minutes, well, we know 15 minutes is 0.25 and we've got an hour, so we just need to add that hour on to get 1.25 hours. So 2 hours and 45 minutes, well, 45 minutes is 0.75, and then we just add on our 2 hours to get 2.75. Okay, and let's say we had 5 hours and 30 minutes. So we know 30 minutes is 0.5. We just add on our 5 hours, to get 5.5 hours. So these are nice rounded minutes that are giving us a nice decimal answer here. If you're not sure about anything, you can always think about, well, you take your minutes and you divide them by 60 and then add on your hours. So 30 divided by 60, you would get 0.5, 15 divided by 60, 0.25, 45 divided by 60, you would get 0.75. And then we're just adding on our hours. So let's say you had a question that was asking you to work out something over 1 hour and 12 minutes. We're going to use this method here of dividing the minutes by 60. So you would take your 12 minutes and you would divide them by 60 and then add on your hours. So 12 divided by 60 is 0.2. Add on your 1 to get 1.2. So that as a decimal would be 1.2 hours. So let's use that in a couple of examples. So let's say a ship travels 30 miles per hour for 1 hour and 30 minutes. How far does it travel? We're going to pick out our information from our question. So speed 30 miles per hour. Time is 1 hour and 30 minutes. And that as a decimal is 1.5. So we need to convert this time into decimal before we apply it to our question. So formula is distance equals speed times time. We're then going to substitute this information into our formula, remember using the 1.5 for your time, and then you would just calculate it as usual. Okay, and you will be allowed to use a calculator for these questions. Okay, if you pause the video here and give these questions a try. Okay, so calculate the distance travelled when you're given the speed and time. So I want to see your formula written down, substituting into your formula, and then your final answer with units as well. So pause here and give these a go. Okay, hopefully you have unpaused after giving these questions a go, and let's go over the answers. Okay, so first one we're going to look at, time is 4 hours, speed is 45 kilometers per hour, so that's 45 times 4, which is the time, to get 180 kilometers. Second question, distance equals speed times time. Speed is 35, time is 5, times them together to get 175 miles, because we've got miles per hour in our question. Okay, next one is time is 1 hour 30 minutes, speed is 40 kilometers. So we're going to times 40 by 1.5 because we've changed our time into decimals to get 60 kilometers. And then question 4, 2 hours and 15 minutes, speed 50 miles per hour. So distance equals speed, which is 50, times the time. So 15 minutes is 0.25, add on your 2 hours to get 2.25, and then multiply to get 112.5 miles. So really well done if you got all of those correct.